Orby. Psst, 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 psst. Say hi. Hi, Orby. Say hi. You ready to listen to Mommy yap? Yeah. Okay, you can go back to sleep. So, how do I want to start this? Because I hate internet introductions. Pay no mind to the lawnmower outside. Poor timing, but I'm doing this right now, or else I will never do it. So, this is my first attempt at a video essay. Yeah. Anyways, I'm Nicole. I've been dancing for the past 20 years, and I'm only 23, so that tells you a little bit about when I started. I recently graduated from college with a double major in dance and public health, and I decided to combine both of those studies together my last year in college, and I spent 2 semesters researching mental health trends in ballet, and then specifically tying them back. Sorry, the lawnmowers are really loud. Specifically tying them back to the roots of the art form and the history of the style, and digging into the hierarchy that exists within ballet spaces today. Yeah. I'm really nervous because I don't like speaking in front of a camera, but here we are. So, yeah. If you see me looking this direction, it's because my laptop is right there with my entire essay on it, and that's quite literally going to be my script for this video, so I apologize. Wait, I also realized I've been looking in the viewfinder instead of actually in the camera, so how about you just don't pay attention to where my eyes are looking? That'll make it really easy for everyone. I titled my research paper, Examining the Impacts of Ballet's Hierarchical Roots on Dancers' Mental Health, a study of professional ballet dancers. Part of this is the background information, including information on sources that have already looked into mental health trends of professional ballet dancers. And some of this is original research where I actually conducted a survey sent out to 123 professional ballet companies. Obviously not all of them actually sent to their students or wanted to participate, but it was there, the offer was made, and this is the results. Starting with my abstract. Dance is often credited as being an ideal physical activity for children of all ages. Many parents enroll their children in ballet classes for this very reason. While recreational dance may benefit the physical and mental well-being of children and adolescents, those who persevere into professional ballet careers often face unique challenges. The history of ballet, dating back to 15th century royal courts, informs the existing culture surrounding ballet to this day. This research aims to measure the potential mental health impacts of the historical hierarchical power systems ingrained in the foundation of ballet. Qualitative and quantitative data on the topic were collected through an anonymous survey. This survey consisted of multiple choice and open-ended questions centered around mental health. Participation criteria stated that participants must be 18 years or older, live in North America, and be current or retired professional ballet dancers. For the purpose of this study, I considered professional as being anyone receiving reoccurring payments for the performance or training of ballet. This study is inspired by existing research that outlines the presence of body image issues, physical injuries, perfectionism, burnout, work-related stress, mental and physical abuse, and low self-esteem among professional dancers. Ballet's history will be referenced to provide context for the reported mental health trends. Using existing literature and survey results, this research aims to offer suggestions on ways to support the mental health of professional ballet dancers. I'm going to also link the entire script for this video in the description, which will have all of my references and citations and everything in there as well. So definitely check that out if you want more information. Historical context. Ballet is an art form that draws on traditions that date back centuries. Rooted in 15th century Italy and later 17th century France, ballet stemmed from traditional European aristocratic culture. Ballet as we know it today took influence from multiple generations of royal courts, including Paris, Versailles, Vienna, Milan, Copenhagen, and St. Petersburg. The early purpose of ballet spanned all of these cities. The intention was to show off and glorify kings and czars. In 1661, Louis XIV of France, also nicknamed the Sun King thanks to his popular portrayal in the court ballets, opened the first ballet school, titled Académie Royale de Danse. Centuries later, and despite all odds, classical ballet established a recognizable reputation throughout the United States. Ballet, at its core, was structured on the very values that prompted America's independence from England and European cultures. The foundation of America and the Puritan beliefs were in opposition to the structured order of nobility, Catholic origins, praise for born leaders, and often sensual themes that comprised ballet at the time. From the 18th through the 19th centuries, ballet grew in popularity in the U.S., but participation in the art form remained a highly debated moral dilemma. Associations between ballet and promiscuity grew, which prompted some ballet companies to cater to middle to upper class women in attempts to change ballet's reputation. American audiences were widely introduced to ballet through features in vaudeville acts, variety shows, musicals, and eventually films. Shortly after leaving the newly formed Soviet Union to tour Europe and America, George Balanchine and Lincoln Kirsten found artistic freedom in America. In 1934, Kirsten and Balanchine founded the School of American Ballet. Balanchine's goal was for the School of American Ballet to be the first fully American ballet company. But lacking financial support from the government, ballet companies began offering ballet classes to anyone who could afford them. While in theory this seemed to increase accessibility to classical dance, as it leaned away from hand-selecting young students based on physical features, status, or natural ability, it simultaneously deepened the affiliation with the middle and upper class, who had the finances to afford classes. Due to this, ballet managed to maintain a facade of accessibility, being open to anyone, especially children, regardless of talent, while simultaneously building an association with high society. It is also important to note that in the beginning, only royal men were allowed to perform ballet. So then, how did we get the image of a ballerina as we often imagine today? Imbalances on the basis of gender have existed in ballet since its earliest days. During its founding, ballet was only performed by men. Men even played the roles of women in ballet. It wasn't until 1681 when the first woman performed ballet in a public show. Beyond this performance, the invention of point shoes and Anna Pavlova's American tour introduced more women into ballet's spotlight. The earliest 19th century saw a novel invention sweep through the dance world. After multiple attempts at portraying dancers, especially women, as gravity-defying sylphs, the illusion was finally achieved. The invention of the point shoe evolved to become the symbol of ballet. In the 1820s, dancing on point was premiered to American audiences. Point shoes, often used to allow dancers to appear weightless and whimsical, were introduced to be worn by the women portraying delicate or ghostly roles. The novelty of this feat influenced the image associated with ballet to center around fragile, elegant, and graceful young women. Almost a century later, from 1915 to 1925, Anna Pavlova, a renowned Russian ballet dancer, toured the United States. Pavlova quickly became enamored by the American public, who looked at her as a fashion and fitness icon. Pavlova's influence on the fashion and fitness industries is credited as the start of ballerinas becoming influential icons of femininity in America. Pavlova's presence on American stages prompted a boom in the popularity of children enrolled in ballet classes, particularly little girls. Despite the increase in women in ballet, teacher, choreographer, and director roles are often held by men to this day. A number of accounts from current and former professional dancers points out a double standard exists between genders in ballet companies and studios. Today, boys and men are rare in dance spaces, so they are often treated with more lenience. Beginning in childhood, boys in dance are allowed to be creative and energetic, while girls are taught to be quiet and disciplined. This feeds the gender gap in leadership positions in ballet, where a majority of companies are owned and choreographed by men, despite a 20-to-1 ratio of women to men in ballet class. For girls, ballet is highly competitive, but also based on conformity. During class, young girls are expected to be quiet, attentive, and obedient. This does not mean that boys and men in ballet don't face any challenges. For boys, added emotional tolls come from frequent bullying and name-calling from peers, classmates, and society at large. This is often in regard to ballet being viewed as inherently feminine, despite the contrast from the bona fide roots of the art form. Now on to hierarchical structures in ballet. From European royal courts of the 1600s to George Balanchine's founding of the School of American Ballet, and eventually to ballet in the 21st century, ballet has managed to uphold a guise of prestige, wealth, and elegance. Today, ballet continues to be cast and taught on the basis of aesthetic value stemming from high society ideals. One study on the social predictors of career success in ballet competitions illustrated this in their study's findings. Their research identified a theme of ballet companies implementing selection-based bias on the prestige of dancers' schools and social connections. This is just one example of many relics of the early European elites lingering in the present-day dance landscape. I hope I'm saying this name right, but Chloe Agnell's book, Turning Point: How a New Generation of Dancers is Saving Ballet from Itself, mentioned a hidden curriculum, which described the subliminal teachings in ballet's culture. This includes many lessons, values, treatment, and intense ballet environments that are often concealed from people outside of these rehearsal spaces, including many ways that dancers are taught to minimize concepts of personal autonomy. Similar to Agnell's hidden curriculum, famed dancer Edward Villela publicly commented on Gelsey Kirkland's publication Dancing on My Grave, an autobiography, where she shared her struggles within professional ballet. Villela stated that Kirkland's autobiography, quote, drew attention to our world that is normally looked at through rose-colored glasses, unquote. During an event recognizing Kirkland for her strength in overcoming challenging setbacks, Villela, the only one of Kirkland's colleagues to attend, suggested that Kirkland's publication had offended their company members and staff. He went as far as to reveal that he purposely had not read her book due to loyalty to their company. These alarming interpersonal accounts demonstrate one of many concerning power structures in ballet's culture. In professional ballet, many hierarchies exist. One of the most notable hierarchies in ballet is that of the student-teacher relationship. Teachers, choreographers, and company directors hold unmatched power in ballet spaces. One author, Smith, goes on to describe this power as authoritarian and having characteristics of cults. Another form of hierarchy lies both with gender and race. Spanning from treatment to class, the stereotypical gender roles in ballet, and the overwhelming majority of men in leadership position in ballet companies, it is clear that inequality remains in every aspect of professional ballet. Elitism, prestige, and socioeconomic class may also represent factors in ballet's hierarchy. However, the existing ranking system of ballet company members, for example, the corps de ballet, soloist, principal, and apprentice roles, is arguably the most widely recognized sense of a pecking order in ballet. Now on to the fun part, the review of literature. The advent of research into the mental health of professional ballet dancers shines a light on a link between the demands of ballet training and unfavorable mental health outcomes. While some positive mental health benefits exist as a result of ballet, existing studies tend to be polar, only focusing on all positive labeled or all negative labeled health findings. Within literature focused specifically on professional level ballet dancers, positive findings have been suggested as potential for future mental health. For example, after retiring from dance, rather than existing experiences of positive mental health impacts. Conversely, research on adolescence and recreational dance tends to highlight the physical and mental benefits of ballet. Research in the field of dance is still relatively new and sparse. The prevalence of eating disorders and injuries have been studied the most out of all ballet-focused research pertaining to mental health. Findings from studies and reviews highlight many facets of mental health within ballet dancers, with many focusing on the presence of mental illness, abuse, and overall lack of mental health in ballet companies. While this video essay focuses on professional ballet in North America, similar trends involving poor mental health and/or abusive environments have been reported in studies throughout Europe and South Africa. Starting with body image. A significant amount of existing literature discusses ballet and its impacts on body image and eating disorders. While this research topic does not focus directly on body image, it is important to recognize that the research into the prevalence of disordered eating among professional ballet dancers does exist. Ballet has long been associated with specific, often thin, ballet body ideals. Much of the ballet proportions we are familiar with today stem from Balanchine and his vision for how a dancer should look. While these ideals have shifted over time, they remain a highly debated and criticized subject. A lack of autonomy may be a contributing factor to disordered eating habits in attempts to regain a sense of personal control. The prevalence of mirrors in ballet studios may also play a role in dancers' body image. Company dancers spend nearly their entire working day looking into large-scale mirrors, often spanning the entire front wall of the studio. One interview with university dancers found that a reliance on mirrors increased self-consciousness. The same source found that those who looked at themselves in the mirror more often had a higher tendency to view themselves as an object. Similar research into the impacts of mirrors have explained this as the theory of objective self-awareness. Throughout nearly 100 interviews in Agnell's book, multiple dancers revealed that they received praise for their appearance or weight after undergoing unintentional weight loss due to severe illness. While other accounts suggest it is not uncommon for the subject of weight to be brought up directly in company settings, many participants also reflected on the high frequency of indirect comments encouraging dancers to modify their weight. Comments on weight, dancer weigh-ins, weight requirements, and even unspoken ideals about the ideal ballet body can all influence the mental health of dancers. These practices can influence self-esteem, beliefs about self-identity, or even influence their physical health. Injuries. Another commonly studied topic in dance is the occurrence of injuries. One study, consisting of weekly monitored reports of 57 professional ballet company dancers, found that 96.5% of the participants experienced at least one injury in the span of a 44-week period. Some studies suggest that dancers may be even more likely to get injured than traditional athletes, with one 2013 study concluding that ballet dancers had higher rates of knee and lower back injuries than gymnasts and volleyball players. Professional ballet dancers have an estimated lifetime injury rate of 90%, with one study suggesting that nearly all professional dancers will have at least one injury when working a minimum of 1 year. A study from the University of Washington found that dancers get injured at the same frequency and severity as contact sports, including football and wrestling. Physical injuries are often associated with, either caused by or leading to, emotional distress and/or depression. High rates of injury may be linked to findings of excessive stress in dancers. Stress can cause the body to tense, which can increase the chance of injury. Stress may also mean dancers are less cognitively focused on the task at hand, which also leads to errors and injuries while performing. While injuries are common for many athletes, this can come with unique challenges for professional dancers. Not all companies provide health insurance. Worse yet, some contracts do not continue paying dancers if they are not actively performing, even if it's due to an injury. These factors often encourage dancers to continue performing and neglect resting injuries. Similar studies have investigated the rates of injury in dance and suspected that overtraining, fatigue, and burnout played a large role in these injuries. One notable journal publication points out that burnout typically occurs following overtraining, rather than burnout causing dancers to push past their limits in the first place. Burnout, stress, and perfectionism. Burnout and overall stressors in dance are topics with some available literature. However, the study populations or dance style of focus are largely inconsistent. One source cites, quote, "Burnout is uniquely characterized by feelings of reduced accomplishment, as well as devaluation and resentment of a previously enjoyable activity." With this definition of burnout and its trend to follow periods of excessive training, it seems to reflect highly specific elements of ballet's unique culture. Across several studies, traits such as perfectionism have been shown to affect professional ballet dancers. Maladaptive perfectionism, a type of perfectionism where unattainable goals are set, can often increase self-criticism, low self-esteem, or obsessive behaviors. Due to the hyper-competitive nature of ballet, pushing towards perfectionism is often deemed necessary to make a career in dance. However, a perfectionist mindset can deeply damage a dancer's mental health. Perfectionism has been seen as a common predictor variable for eating disorders, performance anxiety, and burnout in both male and female dancers. In a similar vein to perfectionist mindsets, ballet may also correlate with other rigid traits. In an interview, Terry Hyde, a former dancer with the Royal Ballet and a current dance counselor in the UK, points out that ballet fosters a mindset of black and white thinking. In ballet, movements are either right or wrong. Peers are often compared to one another or enter ballet competitions which foster an environment of comparison. Both of these practices may subconsciously lead young dancers to feelings of self-doubt and add to the competitive nature of ballet. At the time of the interview, Hyde stated he was involved in research on neurodiversity in early dance training, which suggests that beginning dance training from a young age may intensify black or white thinking or perfectionism. Ballet as self-identity. Several dancers who participated in interview-based studies expressed ballet as being an intrinsic part of their personal identity. Due to this link between ballet and self-identity, some dancers have addressed linking self-worth to external factors, such as appearance, level of career success, or opinions from ballet instructors or directors. Abuse. In recent years, spanning from 2018 to present day, a multitude of dancers spoke out about misconduct, sexual assault, and abuse in dance spaces. Data and studies on abuse in professional ballet are sparse, leaving those who publicly speak out on this topic to provide the context themselves. While the full magnitude of this issue is under-researched, reports of abuse, sexual violence, inappropriate communication, and coercion show that the issue is present in various ages, types of dance, and prestige. From major touring competitive dance corporations, small-scale companies, globally known ballet companies, and countless other extensions of the dance industry, abuse of power has been reported and, in many cases, swept under the rug. One contributing factor to the widespread abuse in the concert dance industry is the covert nature of ballet. Many aspects of ballet's regimen are not designed to be on public display. While these reports of abusive rehearsal spaces may not be surprising to those in the dance sphere, the general public only sees what is presented to them. Within this elusive nature of the ballet industry, professional dancers often receive substandard pay. Despite engaging in physically demanding work, professional ballet dancers commonly live paycheck to paycheck, only deepening their dependence on their employer or company. Overall, financial limitations and the tradition of teachers passing down the same harmful practices they were taught are key factors in the perpetuation of potentially abusive ballet environments. I hate reading names because I just always feel like I'm saying them wrong. So, Catalyst suggests that the aforementioned challenges in the dance industry stem from two main limitations: a lack of training and pedagogy, and limited financial resources. This suggestion has also been echoed in other existing literature. Limitations on current literature. While research does exist in the realm of ballet and mental health, there are many limitations. The population studied remains very inconsistent and poorly defined. Dance-focused research often lumps multiple styles of dance together. Age ranges and levels are also commonly grouped too broadly. Pre-professional or student dancers are the most represented in dance research overall. Research representing professional dancers, retired professionals, and particularly dancers past the age of 30 are underrepresented. Another limitation of dance research are small sample sizes. Some studies consist of as few as 8 dancers, and many sources draw from sample sizes with under 20 participants. Additionally, many mental illnesses and mental health issues, such as distress or depression, as well as studies on abuse, are significantly lacking investigation throughout existing literature. Mental health and challenges that affect mental health are uniquely individual and can be hard to categorize accurately. Due to this, inconsistencies in research exist as a byproduct of individual experiences, mental processes, and countless other internal and external factors. Methodology. This research involves a primary research study using non-probability sampling. An IRB-approved online survey consisting of open-ended and multiple-choice questions was sent out to 123 professional ballet companies of various sizes across North America. Yes, I personally emailed 123 dance companies. Of these companies, 8 directly responded. Furthermore, one company identified that their dancers did not meet the participation criteria, and one company declined interest in participating, leaving only 6 companies that confirmed sharing the survey with their dancers. Additionally, the survey link was shared across social media. The purpose of this questionnaire was to assess trends in the reported mental health of professional ballet dancers. Questions revolved around body image, injuries, perfectionism, burnout, anxiety and depression, occupational stress, and abuse. These topics are informed by existing studies and literature on the topic of mental health in dance. This survey was intended to obtain up-to-date mental health trends for professional ballet dancers aged 18 and older in North America. This survey also entails questions surrounding the unaddressed needs of this population in the hopes of compiling this information into a call to action for the greater ballet community in the form of writing and performed choreography. Responses for this study were manually analyzed by categorizing common themes. Data from the study was then compared to existing literature collected from dance and science journals and self-reported blogs and magazine articles. Specifically, the historical framework of ballet's power system was explored relative to the mental health findings. Some questions in this questionnaire ask about the impacts of specific relics from the historical hierarchy, such as dancer ranking systems. The responses prompt a discussion on the lasting effects of the historical structure of power and privilege in ballet since its inception. Findings. So I reached out to 123 professional companies. I got 6 viable company responses, and then also anyone who responded over social media, and these are the answers that I got. Out of 57 people who accessed the survey link, 47 participants met all of the outlined requirements to proceed to the survey questions. 37 participants answered questions past the eligibility page, and 26 completed the full survey. It is important to note that for quantitative data, I calculated percentages out of the total number of people who viewed that question, which could be anywhere between 26 or 37 depending on the question. This ensures that those who exited the survey early are not skewing results for any questions they did not see. Participants had the option to skip questions as they saw fit. Dancers aged 18 to 57 plus were represented in this survey. Quantitative data. Demographic data was collected showing 32 participants were white, 4 were Hispanic or Latino, 3 were Black, 1 was mixed race, and 1 was East Asian. Additionally, 29 participants were women and 8 were men. Despite a majority of participants reporting they do not believe their race has impacted their treatment in ballet, which was 62.2%, many people who wrote in identified that they felt that they were not impacted because their race is seen as the norm, and or stated that they see dancers of color impacted in dance spaces. In contrast, 64.9% of dancers believe their gender impacted their treatment within ballet. Many dancers, men and women alike, responded with sentiments such as men receiving higher pay and men having less competition for casting. The average age participants reported starting dance training was 6.24 years old. The median age was 5. Of the survey participants, 19 are active professional dancers, 16 are retired professionals, and 2 did not fall in either of these categories. Findings were nearly a 50-50 split when asked if company ranks impacted dancers' careers or mental health, with 52.6% saying no, and 47.4% saying yes. Next, dancers were asked if they were ever taught about ballet's history, to which 60% said yes, with 27% of them learning from college rather than dance training programs or companies. 24% said some or limited education on history, and 16% were not taught the history of ballet at any time in their dance training or career. When asked if their companies provided health insurance, 26.7% of dancers, or 8 out of the 30 who saw the question, said yes. 6.7% were unsure, and 66.7% reported no health insurance provided by their company. Out of 31 dancers who have previously or currently danced for a company, 61.3% reported no mental health resources offered by their company. 16% reported they do have mental health resources offered by their dance company. 9.7% said they had some resources but not enough, and 12.9% were unsure if their company offered mental health resources. Dancers were then asked if they felt they were paid fairly as a professional dancer. No dancers responded a solid yes. 7 of the 34 people who saw this question, which was 20.5%, responded probably yes. 5.9% responded might or might not. 26.5% responded probably not. And 47.1%, 16 out of the 34 individuals who saw this question, responded definitely not. 41.2% of the dancers in the study have never utilized mental health resources, and 58.9% have utilized mental health resources. With the exception of one administration staff member who cited having access to mental health resources through the dance company she works for, and one dancer noting she attended occasional seminars by her company, all of the written responses reflected that the dancers who had utilized mental health resources had to find and pay for these services independently. Possibly one of the most alarming findings from this study was a checklist of mental health issues derived from existing research on the topic. Participants were given a list and instructed to select all answers they have experienced as a direct result of ballet. The list included issues with body image, physical injury, a perfectionist mindset, burnout or loss of enjoyment of a previously enjoyable activity, anxiety, depression, job-related stress, black and white thinking, and mental and or physical abuse. Out of the 29 participants who reached this question, no one left all boxes unchecked. 37.4% reported mental and or physical abuse. 41.4% reported depression. 58.6% reported burnout. 58.6% also reported black and white thinking. 62.1% reported anxiety. 65.5% reported job-related stress. 72.4% reported physical injury. 82.8% reported issues with body image. And 86.2% reported perfectionist mindsets. A majority of respondents included over half, and in some cases, all answers were selected. So after that very disturbing finding, let's move on to qualitative data, or open-ended questions. Qualitative data. Following demographic information, this study began by asking participants to describe their current feelings toward ballet. In response, 8.6% of survey answers reflected less favorable feelings towards ballet, including words such as burnout, while 45.7% were fully positive with simple statements such as, "I love ballet." The rest of the responses fell somewhere in the middle. These can best be described by the following responses. In love with ballet, not so much the industry. And love-hate relationship. I do not know what I would do without it, but it is draining physically and mentally. Responses from the open-ended question, has your ballet training or career impacted your mental health in any way? Indicated 2 notable responses. One response stated, quote, "Yes, I feel ballet has impacted my mental health in both positive and negative manners. Being able to do what I love for work is the best thing that could possibly happen, but it has its downsides. The feeling of never being good enough or the feeling uncomfortable in your own skin during class never seems to simmer after all this time. Yet I think I would rather live like this than give up ballet." Unquote. A different survey participant brought up their experience in ballet by stating, quote, "I retired early from ballet due to the poor state of my mental health. I was being physically and verbally abused by a colleague and partner in the company. I received no support from the staff regarding this abuse. I was afraid to go to work. I had to kiss this partner on stage and eventually left the company to escape this environment." Unquote. The topic of work-related stress was also included in the survey questions. When asked how often they face stress, most days, at least once a week, and at least once a day were all common answers. Dancers reported casting in roles and finances and job stability as their biggest stressors. Similarly, both of these, along with aging, comparison, and body image, were frequently referenced as the most emotionally challenging aspects of participants' ballet careers. The most frequent answer for the most challenging aspect, however, was, quote, never feeling good enough, unquote. On a similar note, dancers wrote in factors that they believed determined their self-worth. 20% of participants who responded cited their body as a factor in their self-worth. 40% based their self-worth, at least partly, on their abilities or dance career, such as things like casting and job performance. An additional 20% based their self-worth on the perception from other people, such as directors, coworkers, families, husbands, parents, etc. And, quote, having my teachers see me as a valuable dancer, unquote. Some people responded with intrinsic value, statements about friends, families, or communities, and simply value from being a human. When asked to describe the current culture of the ballet industry, many participants present contradicting points about improvements in ballet environments. Some dancers, especially retired professionals, described ballet's culture as more healthy than the 90s. And, quote, I would describe it as growing. It has a long way to go, but I see the desire of recent generations to bring us forward and the benefit of those efforts, unquote. In slight contradiction, a handful of participants described ballet as staying the same, with one response stating, quote, it is pretending to be better. However, I have noticed that those who come into positions of power, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, etc., are placed in those positions because they perpetuate the harmful norms and cultural standards. Those who speak out against aspects of the current culture that are harmful are not uplifted to positions of power, unquote. Discussion. So, what do all of these findings really mean in context? Well, when asked directly about the presence of hierarchies in ballet, responses identified multiple forms of pecking order or power imbalances. 2 of these hierarchy examples are expressed in the following responses. Quote, the front of the room is more powerful than the dancers. This is the largest power disparity I have experienced. The other huge power difference is between female presenting and male presenting dancers, with male presenting holding much more power due to them being perceived as more of a commodity, unquote. Throughout the majority of this survey, respondents repeatedly point to an imbalance of power between both directors, teachers, choreographers, and the dancers, and double standards placed on men and women in ballet. These power dynamics relate back to the early history of ballet, as an art form created for royalty and dominated by powerful men. Another interesting finding from this question involved company rank. Some responses reflected sentiments such as, quote, yes, with rank but also older dancers feeling threatened by younger dancers, so they will be condescending and attempt to make new dancers feel ostracized and insignificant, unquote. In their responses, dancers pointed out dancer-to-dancer competition between various ranks, experience levels, and ages. The corresponding yet opposite view to this past example was expressed in a different response, reading, quote, for example, as a new member of a company, other company members don't talk to you or help show you the ropes. In company classes, you have to wait until established company members have their spot at the bar, and then you are allowed to find a spot to stand, unquote. Together, these 2 responses summarize the same experience from different perspectives within the ranking system. Other dancers responded more neutrally, stating that hierarchies exist, yet are not definitively good or bad. It is important to note that the same neutral responses also pointed out that these hierarchies can be and are commonly abused by those with more power. The survey concluded with the opportunity for people to share any additional comments. One response stood out from this section and deserves further discussion. The dancer stated, quote, my therapist refers to ballet as my abusive ex because of the way my brain was shaped by it and how hard it is to let go of, even though it was not good for me in so many ways, unquote. While somewhat humorous, this reply reflects many hardships associated with intensive ballet training. Based on this survey, the average age participants started training in dance was just over 6 years old, with the youngest age being 2, and the oldest starting age being 16. Dancing from such an early age adds a unique strain to dancers' mental health. Many ballet dancers pursuing professional career options are expected to be ready to enter a full-time career by their late teens or early 20s. In order to do this, dancers have to decide how seriously they wish to take ballet in their childhood in order to set the foundation for career-level training. Most ballet students aiming to make it professionally miss milestones throughout childhood, such as full-time schooling, spending time with friends, or participation in other extracurricular activities. This limits the ability for young dancers to adequately develop other facets of their identity, potentially linking their sense of identity to dance from a young and impressionable age. As reflected in the participant's quote, understandings of personal identity formed in childhood can be increasingly hard to unlearn or change. This is why it is important for dancers to be exposed to safe dance practices starting from the beginning days of their training and career. Similarly, due to the prevalence of dancers beginning training from childhood or adolescence, it poses an ethical question. Does ballet cause or attract these traits? While there may never be a definite answer, dance studios, intensives, and companies need to work harder at ensuring students are growing into their identity and artistry in nurturing environments. This next part, I'm actually a little bit unsure if I'm even going to include it in the video. It focuses particularly on 2 individual participants who both responded in alarming ways, I would say. And part of me does not want to include this and put this out on the internet because these people took the time to fill out my survey and gave me their honest opinions on things. With that being said, these participants did sign off. They did agree to a consent form at the beginning of the survey before answering any questions, which basically stated that I could use this information to gather research and share said research. And I think if they went into a research study and they answered these questions knowing that they could be used in future research, I think I have to listen to them. I think I just have to listen to their answers and treat them as I would any other answers in this survey. So with that being said, some responses I found particularly interesting and concerning were from 2 individuals. We're going to call them participant X and participant Y. Without going into much detail to keep them anonymous, both participants reported being white men who are active professional dancers. Both men acknowledged that their gender impacted their careers by pointing out that they had less competition and got paid more than their female coworkers. Despite this, one of the 2 participants defended his difference in pay, citing that they may be deserving of higher pay because they are responsible for lifting women, which is both physically demanding and harder for their female counterparts to do. Another alarming response from one of these participants was the idea that ballet's culture impacts dancers' mental health only if they are weak. When asked if there's anything he would like to see change within professional ballet companies, participant X responded, quote, "Bunheads and tryhards need to calm down and realize it is never that serious. It is ballet," unquote. This was immediately followed by, quote, "Just have fun, and if it bothers people that much, just quit," unquote. Participant Y consistently pointed out many common themes, such as pay difference between men and women, low pay for dancers in general, and the presence of multiple forms of hierarchy in ballet. However, this participant went on to try and explain and rationalize the existence of all of these things. Some examples that he included are that men get paid more because they have to lift people and the women can't do that, that there's lacking demand, which causes lower pay for dancers because fewer people are seeing ballet shows, and that all organizations have hierarchies, so it's nothing to note in ballet. While I can't discredit his responses, I did find it interesting how dismissive both participant X and Y were in their understandings of ballet's overall impact on mental health. Despite this, Many of their multiple choice answers were on par with the responses from the majority of participants, with both noting various mental health challenges they have faced in their professional ballet careers. To me, this revealed that even those perpetuating the harmful mental health practices and upholding hierarchical inequalities have been victims of ballet's rigid culture. While other men completed the survey and responded very similarly to the bulk of women participating, these two men seem to offer the perspective of those in the industry who believe ballet's harsh mental health standards should be normalized, excused, and brushed off. Similar beliefs may be reflected by those in power within ballet hierarchies, including, but not limited to, directors, choreographers, instructors, and men in high-ranking roles. All too often, harmful practices are normalized by those at the top. This is likely because the people at the top either benefited from or fought their way through these harsh practices and inequalities. In a visual sense, this can be described as the difference between someone looking down from the top of a mountain, regardless of how they managed to get to that point, versus someone looking up while they are actively making the climb.
Practical and clinical applications.
Included in this survey were questions to gauge the needs and ideas for change that are held within the ballet industry. Dancers were encouraged to share what they would like to see change within professional ballet careers. Some common answers included more diversity, including race and gender representation, women in leadership roles, and letting go of gender roles and body ideals, along with better pay, job security, company-provided health care, and mental health resources, and a call for the overall better working conditions and a working union. A few responses discussed hierarchies directly and advocated for more balance in the power dynamics between those in the front of the room, aka teachers, choreographers, and directors, and the dancers. Decreasing the infantilization of dancers was mentioned by one respondent, as well as a call for more access to ballet for marginalized groups. Additionally, one response discussed unpaid positions by saying, quote, "Get rid of trainee, second company, or other positions where students have to pay and do not receive any benefits," unquote. Following these questions, individuals were asked if they had any recommendations on ways to improve mental health in professional dance spaces. Answers included many well-thought-out ideas. 3 notable yet broad categories stuck out when analyzing this set of responses. First, there was a predominant call for companies to provide more mental health resources to their dancers. This call for resources, including in-house therapists, mental health screenings or checkups, and the inclusion of practices such as Reiki or massages, made up the largest portion of these first-hand recommendations. Comparisons were made between the need for mental health resources and physical therapists, with respondents urging companies to value dancers' mental well-being as much as their physical ability and appearance. The second common theme was a shift in vocabulary and conceptual understanding of dancers' roles. One response directly asked for an update to the language used in class and rehearsal environments. This included simple changes such as using women rather than girls and advocating for dancers' bodies to be referred to as more than simply a tool, instrument, or facility, thus increasing the overall credit given to dancers. Another participant highlighted a similar feeling, stating, quote, "Have directors understand that we are people too, and not just bodies in a space," unquote. Continuing on the topic of language, dancers explicitly stated that they do not believe directors should be allowed to comment on dancers' weight. An overarching plea for dance companies to foster safe spaces where feelings can be expressed rather than shut down was repeatedly communicated, both in direct response to this question and reflected in the overall survey answers. The final topic brought up in dancers' personal recommendations was only directly discussed in one response. However, previous findings from the survey reveal the issue is shared by many. This particular response advocated for the creation of an anonymous reporting system for dancers to report abuse or poor working conditions. The dancer who provided this comment pointed out that currently there are few, if any, places for dancers to turn to get help on related issues. Given that 37.9% of participants reported mental and/or physical abuse, and many individual open-ended responses highlighted unchecked power afforded to directors, including an anonymous reporting system seems long overdue. With directors and other staff members directly controlling dancers' job security, roles, and employment, more systems of checks and balances need to be enforced. Without these, directors wield uncontrolled power and leverage over their dancers, affording them the ability to unjustly mistreat, overwork, and dictate their company dancers with minimal consequences. Of course, this is not to vilify all directors or company staff members. Many people in these leadership positions are deeply passionate about fostering a positive community based on a shared love of ballet. With this being said, survey participants called for more opportunities for honest dialogue from dancers, more balanced power dynamics, and overall safer working environments, both mentally and physically. One dancer expressed their recommendations for improved mental health in dance perfectly by stating, quote, "The first step is to have easy, accessible, and cheap mental health resources provided by the company. The second and harder step is to address the systematic issue in individual directors and their treatment of their dancers," unquote. That's where I'll leave you today. I do have a second version of this, which talks a little bit more about the hidden curriculum as discussed in Chloe Agnell's Turning Point book. If you are interested in seeing my write-up about that, definitely leave a comment. Let me know. I can definitely do that. It would be a lot of fun. Another thing that I'm interested in is the crossover of anatomy lessons and teaching ballet. I am currently teaching dance, and this is my first year that I get to teach ballet, and I'm very excited. And I'm going to really focus on mixing anatomy lessons with their ballet technique. If you're interested in seeing any of that from a ballet teacher perspective, let me know, and I can definitely make some videos about that. For now, I will probably mostly be posting choreography videos. I have some things coming up that I'm working on. Please subscribe if you are interested in dance, in ballet, and choreography, and anything like that. More to come soon.